You may have realized that being healthy feels different than it did in the past now that you're over 50. If you want to maximize your health potential but don't have time to read through overwhelming pages of Google links, this is the show for you. Welcome to Healthy Tips After 50. We love doing the research, finding solutions, talking to health experts, and learning what works and what doesn't. Now, your host. She spent the last 25 years dedicated to feeling her best and is here to share her best findings with you, Susan Rosen.
Hello, everyone. This is your host, Susan Rosen, and I have, as usual, another fascinating guest today for my podcast, and his name is Dr. Matt Chalmers. And Dr. Matt, do you go by Matt or Dr. Chalmers? Do you have a preference?
I don't. As long as I know you're talking to me, that's all.
Well, you're the only other one here, so it's got to be
It's going to make it easy.
Exactly. Okay. So Matt, because that's easier for me, is a health and wellness expert, author, we'll find out about that too, podcast host, which I have not talked to him about, so that'll be something else to find out about, and speaker who specializes in the areas of long-term wellness, nutrition, women's health, which we will also get into a little bit, weight loss, athlete wellness, and holistic healing. And he has an incredibly diverse client list that includes professional athletes, business executives, politicians, and celebrities, but he doesn't need to name drop. And he also takes a holistic-based approach with patients to identify and treat the source of their issues. And many medical doctors regularly refer patients to him when traditional medications and treatments are not working with their patients. So all of that sounds absolutely fascinating and very much along the lines that this podcast talks about, which is why I got into it in the first place. So welcome, Dr. Matt Chalmers.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So I'm glad you're here too. I think you've got some incredibly wonderful background and information to share with my audience. So starting off, is there anything else you want to say that you are or do or some funny fact? I mean, I don't usually ask that, but
probably
something interesting.
The easiest way, because people always ask me, like, how do I put all this into a kind of a nutshell? I'm a physiologist. So what I do is I try to get the body, what makes the body work the best way, and how did the system break? Let's put physiology back together, and it almost always makes the body work the way it's supposed to. So if we can figure out the original design and go back to that, it's been very, very helpful for a lot of people. So that's the easiest way to think of what it is that we do.
So something that just came up in my brain while you were saying that is there a difference? I mean, I know there's a difference between men and women. Okay, that's we know that. Is there a difference between where people are from, even like ancestral kinds of things?
Yeah. So I'll give you a quick example. I had a married couple come in. He is basically a Viking. He's, Western European, and she was from the middle of China. I have no idea how these people met, but her whole 200 years of generational history have been from this one small town in China. She was trying to eat an American diet that had meat in it. And while he was doing amazing on it, she couldn't process it because they had never seen a cow in her village. And so it's one of those deals where you're like, look, let's take a look at your history, your genealogical history, and figure out what's going on. And so we had to take her completely off of meat, go back to basically a vegan diet, which is kind of funny because I had to put her husband on a strong keto, which had a lot of meat in it. So it was a little bit different, but it wasn't because they're men and women. It was because of where they were from. If your 200 generations have been from one place, you're going to eat that type of food. So my wife is Arab, and she's a type O, she's a kapha, she's an endomorph, just like I am, but she can eat things from the Mediterranean. I can't, because her 20, 40, 50 generations of, Lebanese, and that's where she's from. So there's things that definitely play in like that, that we have to take into account of what is your genetics used to consuming, because it's probably going to be okay eating the things from where you're from. So that it definitely plays a role.
Interesting. Yeah. Which makes a lot of it makes so much sense. And I mean, we all know we get things from our parents anyways. I mean, my father is Russian and Polish.
Mm-hmm.
My mother, English and Polish. Actually, my father was all Russian. It was all Russian, and my mother was English and Polish. And my mother had allergies to everything. She would go into a bakery and she would react to the wax they had on the floor.
Wow.
I mean, that actually happened. And all 4 kids have allergies, including me. A little different. All of us got a little different part of her allergies. My father was never allergic to anything in his life. And, and I just know myself, they give me medications like, okay, no, this one's not working. I get horrible reactions to things.
Have you ever done a PGX test? A PGX is a genetic test that tells us how your body will respond to medications.
No, nobody's ever suggested that.
So I would look at Jingo PGX test, because that might be able to help you out a lot, especially if they're always guessing on medications. It'll give them a much better chance of being like, hey, your genetics tells that this family, you're not going to respond well. You're going to either absorb too much or break it down too fast, or not. It's not going to work. So it'll help them kind of guess, hey, this one column is better for you, so we can choose a drug out of there. So I would do a PGX test. That might help quite a bit.
Okay, I'll try that. Yeah. I mean, every doctor I've ever gone to just says, "Well, try this one." They don't really care about the other stuff until I come back and say, "No." I mean, sometimes it just puts me to sleep. Other times I can't take B1.
Okay.
It literally, I can't breathe.
So have you ever had an MTFHR test done? So MTFHR is where you do not methylate B vitamins.
Right. Okay.
And so your body is going to respond very negatively to a non-methylated B form. And so that very well might be something that you've got going on. So I would check that, because that also leads to the body not being able to clean the liver very well. And if the body can't clean the liver, then you're going to have higher allergy. So does anybody in your family have gallstone issues?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
But then some of them I don't talk to. So, but that's a whole nother issue. Well, we can take this offline.
Go ahead.
I'm sure the people. No, that's okay. I shouldn't have brought it up. It's my fault. We'll take this one offline, and if anybody wants to know, you can send me something, and I'll tell you how it comes out. Okay, let's go back to things that apply to everybody. Well, not necessarily everybody, but more than just me. I don't need to make this all about me, although it wouldn't be bad, but yeah. Anyways, actually, you know what? No, it's okay. I was going to say I'd cut it out, but that's okay. I'm sure other people are going to be think, oh my God, she's at it again.
Well, people get a lot of benefit out of that. So if they've never heard of that, it'd be something they need to hear about.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Too, so that's good.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I also think that people have a lot more allergies now than when I was growing up.
Yeah, there's a lot more chemicals too that we're having to deal with, and then the nutrition we're getting in isn't as dense as we used to. So our bodies aren't going to run as well as they used to. So yeah, the allergy thing is very, very real.
Yeah, exactly. And I have not run into a lot of allergists. Are there still allergists around?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just curious. I had an allergist. My goodness, when I first became allergic to everything in the world, and did the whole diet where you start eating 3 things and then you keep adding things to it. Because my allergies are mostly, well, like the vitamins, but it's mostly all food centric. And bless his heart, he said to me after we came up with the whole list of what I should stay away from, He said, okay, go take the list and have a good life. He said, I can't help you with allergy medicine or anything like that. He said, so don't even, you have any issues, you have any problems, definitely come back. I'm not going to start giving you things just to, make money off of, or have you keep
Well,
coming in.
so one of the things you can do, that anybody can do who has a lot of
Uh-huh.
allergy, is
Yeah.
if you clean up your gut. So the way I explain this is, let's say you have a t-shirt, it's your favorite shirt, you put it on, you
Uh-huh.
feel good, you like the way you look in it.
Yeah.
Well, then you go to the lake, you take your shirt off, you get a sunburn. You come back, you put that same shirt back on, but now that shirt hurts. The shirt hasn't changed, your skin's inflamed. If we can clean the gut up and clean the liver up, a lot of the foods you're sensitive to now, you will not be as sensitive to, or sensitive at all,
Okay.
once you
Yeah.
clean the gut up. And so there's a whole detox program
Interesting.
run that helps
Okay.
a lot with that. So that's clean your gut up, and that might help quite a
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. I'm always open to anything. My husband's happy if I can start eating some of the food he can eat, because he can eat everything.
It makes it easier.
It does. It does. So anyways, okay, we digress again. I don't know why. You have so much information that I'm just like, oh my God, where has this person been in my life? Anyways, okay, back to what were we going to talk about?
I think we talked about neurodegeneration or
Right.
dementia, that type of thing.
Yeah, there you go. Very appropriate.
Well, it's just one of those things.
Well, you are a neurologist, so I think that's only right, correct?
Yes. Well, it's the easiest path for me to go. Everything is viewed from my view box from a neurologic standpoint of sympathetic, parasympathetic, or how the brain is functioning, and then gut functionality and how it all kind of comes together. So no, that's just the way my brain works though. So yeah.
Okay, good. You can talk now.
All right. So like one of the things we were kicking around was the idea of, what are some things people can do if they're worried about dementia or worried about getting dementia? So the number one thing,
their loved ones.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just them, right?
Yeah. The number one thing that I always want to check first, anytime we talk about brain stuff, whether it's MS or dementia or migraine or whatever, the first thing we want to check is oxygenation. So I have everybody do a sleep study, and that checks oxygenation and movement and stuff like that at night. If your oxygenation is too low, we have to fix that because the brain is desperately hungry for oxygen. And so if at night your oxygenation drops under 90, we need to start using things like pulse oxes and things like that. If it gets too low or the CPAP doesn't bring it up enough, you can actually hook oxygen concentrators onto your CPAP, and that helps tremendously. So we can feed the brain oxygen. But the thing is that the brain doesn't heal the way that we normally think of, but it repaths. And what I mean by repath is it sets itself up to actually function. So, but it needs specific things to do that. One of the most important hormones your body needs, men and women, for the brain to heal, cognitive function, things like that, is testosterone. So a lot of women and a lot of men, not as many men, but a lot of women will notice the osteoporosis. And so testosterone will definitely help with that. That's the only thing that will actually fix the osteoporosis. But the thing that we always see when we're treating osteoporosis is these women come back in and they go, my mental clarity is so much better. Like I can remember stuff again. I'm present in conversations. Like I have the energy and my brain actually works. It doesn't respond. It initiates, those type of things. So it's a really, really big function to get that oxygen up, but also to get that testosterone up so your brain will actually heal. So those are two of the big ones that people miss a lot. When they start looking at how am I going to fix my brain, those two are really, really important. So, I would always start by telling people, sleep study, get your hormones pulled.
Yeah. I was, I'm trying to think, I was just reading about that somewhere as well, that sleep study and the oxygen.
Yeah. Especially now with COVID out, we're having, besides respiratory issues, we're having other vascular issues. And so your oxygenation is super duper important. So we've worked with a lot of people who had long COVID, and long COVID just basically is a lesser symptom of COVID over a long period of time. So that restriction of oxygen over a long period of time makes people tired. It makes their heart race. It makes them dizzy. It makes them pass out if they stand up too quick, things like that. So getting that oxygen in, however we need to get it in, is super duper important for all of these people.
Oh, I can check off a few of those things myself.
Well, and it's funny because it's not just, older people or big fat
Yeah.
people. So like I have a 19-inch neck and
Mhm.
I have terrible apnea. I have since I was 14 years old. And
Uh-huh.
so the only thing that helps me would be a CPAP. So even if we're worried about your grandkids, we're worried about, teenagers, we're about 20, 30, 40-year-olds. Oxygen is super important for us all the way through. So anybody I take on is one of my wellness patients is that we
Mhm.
talk about doing sleep studies because I have found sleep problems in the most crazy places. Like we had a 28-year-old girl who was very fit, soccer player,
Uh-huh.
no fat on her, migraine headaches all the time. And so we did a sleep
Mm.
study, came back that she was not breathing properly at night. We got her a CPAP. She never had a migraine again. So
Wow.
migraines are very, very common an oxygen issue. So those type of things, epilepsy, those type of things are really, really made better by making sure the oxygen is going to the brain.
No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. No, and I definitely snore. Not like I used to, but I tape my mouth closed. It helps.
Well, make sure you're checking your oxygen at night because
Yeah.
people are like, well, I don't snore. I'm like, I actually don't care about snoring. Snoring is between you and your partner. Because if you
Right.
keep him or her awake, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But if it's not causing oxygenation issues, knock yourself out, snore all you want. But if it is, that's when we need to say, look, we've got problems here.
Mm,
So, those type of things help tremendously.
interesting. Okay. Okay. Hmm. Interesting. And so it's only through those sleep study things that you can figure that out.
Yeah, and the way we work is as long as we don't think there's neurologic issues, like if you're like having seizures at night or
Ah.
those type of things, then I like to do those in home. And so like the way
Mm-hmm.
we do it is we'll send a kit to you and you'll do 3 nights of study and then we get the information back and we're like, oh hey, look, here's what's going on, here's what we need to do, and we can usually figure that out pretty quickly. So
Interesting.
there is a way to do it in your home. And
Uh-huh.
it's my opinion, best option.
Yeah. No, yeah, I can see where that would be. Absolutely. People wouldn't keep putting it off and putting it off. And
Oh yeah.
right.
Well, plus, if you go to a sleep center, you're in an uncomfortable bed in an unfamiliar place, and you know that
Yeah.
people are watching you. And so
Yeah.
it's just awkward and weird. But if it's at your house, what do you do? Do you have a glass of wine? Do you watch TV for an hour? Do you play on Facebook? I want you to do the things you do in your
Mm.
bed, in your environment, so I can test the best situation for you.
Oh,
So that's why I like sleep studies in your
smart.
house. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No, that sounds.
from the doctor's side, they don't get paid nearly as well, but the information is really all you really need. So whether you do it in a sleep center and the center and the doc makes a ton of cash, or you do it at home and you just get the information. If the information is what you care about, I do it.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense to me. And I could see where you'd be really uncomfortable. I mean, I do know people who've done sleep, gone in and had to do sleep studies, and was not a pleasant experience.
It's not. I've done it both ways, and I'd much rather do it at home. So,
Yeah. 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 No, that makes a lot of sense.
but it's
Makes
funny
a lot
because
of
like
sense.
long-term apnea doesn't just damage the brain; it hurts the heart. And so it
Mm.
increases what we call reactive oxidative stress, which is also free radicals. And so it can
Uh-huh.
damage the blood vessels, giving us plaquing. And so what I have a lot of my other patients do is get what's called a calcium CT, which is an X-ray of the chest, and it comes
Uh-huh.
back and tells us if there's any plaquing in the arteries. So
Mm.
big
Mm.
thing is don't let
Wow.
cholesterol levels fool you into thinking you're either safe or you're not. If you're worried about plaquing, go get a calcium CT and just look at how much plaquing is there. Because there's been a ton of people
Ah.
tested who had perfect cholesterol, but their
Yeah.
calcium CT said that they were all blocked up and we had to do stents and stuff like that. So the calcium CT is a really, really good way of making sure that your blood vessels are clear. You can also do what's called a Doppler ultrasound, which is on the
Mm.
carotid arteries and the femoral
Mm-hmm.
artery and the
Okay.
legs, and
Uh-huh.
that'll tell you if you have any plaquing there. So those are both really good studies for not only blood flow and oxygen, but for the heart and for the brain as well. So those
Wow.
studies are super important.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, that makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. Yeah, because everything I've always read has said that cholesterol and the two or three different kinds of cholesterol, right? That it really isn't. If your cholesterol is high, it doesn't necessarily mean X, Y, and Z. and therefore you better get to a doctor or you're going to die soon, right?
Yeah, there are better studies out. The Boston Heart Study is actually a study of inflammatory chemicals, and the inflammation what causes plaquing. So we get higher inflammation, it damages the blood vessel weaks or leaks tissue factor and fibrinogen, and then any amount of cholesterol that's in the blood will stick to that area and start creating a patch or a plaquing bubble. And so that's why if you're like, oh, my cholesterol is great, but my inflammation is terrible, then we need to really worry about it and do calcium CTs and see, do we need to put stents in, or you're in problems, that type of thing.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there are so many doctors out there who don't, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, don't know about half of this stuff. They're not taught in school, and a lot of them have been out of school for decades. You know, I mean, I know I went to get a blood test a couple of months ago with a new doctor, because my doctor had retired, and I got there and had the blood taken, and I was like, how come I don't have to fast? This is really strange. So I go and then I get it back, and I'm like, there were like 3 things she looked for, 2 of which had to do with cholesterol, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You know, oh well, that's all you needed. It's like, how do you know?
Yeah, it's always funny because I just had this conversation with another patient, and they were mad because they went to a different doctor before they started coming here, and they were like, and they asked for a bunch of studies, and the doctor just said no. Like, he wasn't asking for drugs, he was asking for blood work on him, just information on his body, and the doctor was like, that's no, you know. And I was blown away. I'm like, if you come to me and you say, I want this $1,000 blood study done, cool. Give me the numbers and I'll send it. And you know, if you're willing to pay for it, like it's not up to me. It's your body. If you want information on your body, I should be giving it to. I should get the blood draw. I should get the MRI. Whatever it is you need, you should get to have on your body. So we do it. We do a lot of that. So that's why, like, we've set up on the website so you can order your own blood tests. You know, you can figure out stuff on your own. We're building a new site that it's integrated to calcium CTs and echocardiograms, and you can order all your own studies. Hey, you want to do one every 2 weeks? That's excessive, but it's your body. You get to choose. Money. That's right. It's your body and your money. You do you, right? If you have questions, I'll help you out. But whatever you want, you should get to have.
No, I totally agree. You know, and at this point, I'm on Medicare, so I mean, that's the good and the bad, right?
So what happens is that we'll do stuff on our side for cash. We'll find all these issues, and I'll hand it to their Medicare doctors and be like, now you have this information, go do all this stuff on Medicare. Go do the stent, go do the ablation, go do all these things on Medicare. And they're like, hey, thanks for the information. And they run the studies, and they do the procedures. But it's you know, once you figure out how that works, it's easy to integrate everything. So, you know, that's one of the things that we'll do is like, okay, buy the studies, and then I'll tell you how to tell your doctor how to get things done. And it usually works out pretty well.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, a lot of them are for whatever the easiest way to get the patient out of their office.
Well, and that's the problem, because a lot of times it's, I have 10 minutes for you because I only get paid for seeing people. Thank you. So, you know, and that's I treat tons of people who are on Medicare because they feel like their doctors don't have time or are not taking the time to work with them. So, and it's funny because like the way Medicare is set up is you can't come in and be like, hey, I'm going to do some stuff on Medicare and they're going to charge you cash for all this stuff over here. Medicare doesn't like that very much. There's some things you can do like that, but you can't be like, well, I'm going to take $10 for Medicare for this 45-minute visit, and I'm going to charge you the rest. Some of that becomes illegal. And so that's why a lot of docs don't do that. They're like, I'll give you the best I can give you for 10 minutes. So it's unfortunate, but that's kind of where we are.
No, and well, I won't disparage where I go. Anyways, that does make perfect sense though. And unfortunately, that is not new.
No.
You know, we happen to have better tests now, which a lot of them cost a lot more. And the medical industry, which I think is the correct word, um, is much pickier, and they've got all the details in there now to make sure that you don't get all these other things as part of the package.
Well, it's funny because this is actually what my TED Talk's on. Western medicine is amazing and the very best we could ever hope for at what it does. And that's emergency stuff. If you get shot, stabbed, car wreck, fall off a building, have a heart attack, there's nowhere in the world you'd rather be than a Western medicine hospital. However, once they are like, you're not dying anymore, you can leave. You're like, but I still don't feel good. And they're like, that's not what we do. We keep
go
you
see
from
your
dying.
Go see your doctor.
Go see someone else now. And that's the thing, is we all get mad because we've created this amazing system that keeps us from dying. But then we're like, but I don't feel as good as I should. And they're like, that's not what we do. And so that's what we're trying to create on the other side. It's like, look, if you have a heart attack, don't talk to me. Go see these guys. But if you want to prevent the heart attack, if you want to increase your quality of life, if you want to feel better longer, that's what you talk to me for. And so that's kind of what we're building, is the idea of, from almost in the grave back to walking around. That's Western medicine, and they're unbelievable at it. But if you're like, I'm walking around, but I don't feel as good as I should, that's over here. Come over here and do it over here. And that's the thing that everybody's angry about, is because we want them to take us from almost in the grave to living our very best possible life. And it's like, guys, you can't do everything. So, and God, they're good at what they do. I've almost died 2 or 3 times from car wrecks. And the reason I'm alive is because of the greatness of Western medicine. But the reason I feel so amazing and I live such a high quality of life is because of the things I've done on the other side. So that's the thing. So some of the stuff you're going to have to figure out for yourself. You're going to have to find better wellness doctors.
Yes.
But that's that's a journey that's starting to come out now.
Yes.
So.
Yes. No, exactly. And I guess probably what I need to do too is to go back to some of the other kinds of programs, if we'll call it that nicely, that are not like the social medicine. I almost want to call it where I go now, and there was a reason, and we'll talk to you about that afterwards, but there was a reason why we did change, but that's a whole nother conversation. Anyways, so let's now that I keep taking over the conversation with my woes, but I'm sure there are a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, I have that problem.
That's usually the best way to walk through it, because people either like, I have that, or like my wife or my husband or my best friend, or so. Yeah, it's always going to give real life situations. So I think it helps people a lot.
Well, and also because it's mine is specific about this doesn't mean that it can't be applied to 90% of all of the issues that everybody has.
And oftentimes it can.
Yeah, exactly. No, usually it can.
Yes.
Because they are consistent. I will give them that.
Well, the other thing is that it's always funny because we'll talk about something and 70-80% of people it works really well for, but then there's people who it just doesn't, because we're all different. And so one of the big things that always irritates me is people are like, what's the best diet? And I'm like, for who? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, there's radical different diets that are critical, important for different people. There's some people who need to be vegan, some people who need to be carnivore or keto, or eat a lot of sugar, or eat no sugar. So the chemistry is different for all of us. So if you, hey, this worked great for this person, but it didn't work for me. Well, why? Because if you know why it didn't work for you, it's very oftentimes going to tell you the answer to what you need to do in order to have the thing work. Diet is just the easiest example. I ate a bunch of carbohydrates. I got really fat. Try eating only fat. Oh, look, I lost all the fat and all my cholesterol. Everything's back where it needs to be. Great. Well done. We'll move on. So it's things like that. The thing is that, we're all a little different. So if it doesn't work for you, it's not that you're broken. It's just you're probably using the wrong system.
Thank you. Yes. I totally agree. And on top of that, which we talked about at the beginning as well a little bit, is that men and women are different. There's some things that work for both, and that's fine.
Yes.
But there's a lot of things that don't.
Well, and that's the other thing, is it's dosage, right? So like men and women both critically need testosterone. Men need to be about 1,000 on trough day. Women need to be about 150. So it's significantly less, but it's still a 100% thing you need. So, it's one of those things that men and women, like you said, are definitely different. just because we need the same thing doesn't mean we need the same amount. So that's where the difference comes in there.
Yeah. Or how often you take it, or any of the other things that go along with it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my goodness. Okay. So there was something else we were talking about too, that we were I can't remember. Anyways, like I said, got memory problems. So going on from where we were going,
Yes.
How do people find, well, no, let me rephrase that. How do people find out what it is that they need and who they need to talk to, if their own, people may or may not know about it? Some people have wonderful doctors who are, very open and not in the normal, I only do this box. Right. So there are other people, and there are other people like you as well. I'm just but finding them is always the issue.
A lot of the people, like, so I've started growing my social media following and started doing more things like this. Just trying to get the information out. So we're building a website right now that has a lot of the therapies I do. So like plantar fasciitis and carpal tunnel are super easy to fix at home. And so I put the videos on how to fix them on there. We talk about things like COVID, we talk about PCOS, we talk about, celiac and IBS and all this other thing. So there's a lot of information there. And then if you're like testosterone and sleep study, we talk about all this stuff on my website. And so people can take a look at it and go, this is something I want to learn about. And they can either go learn about it, or they can go talk to their doctor and be like, hey, I want to get X, Y, and Z done. They can contact us. We can help them with it. But as the communities start to grow, what you start to find out is that people understand, hey, Dr. Chalmers is a great resource. Dr. Mercola is a great resource. We're going to go through, we're going to start reading these things about things that doctors have had with their patients. And they've noticed, oh, hey, when we did X, Y, and Z, returning the body to normal, natural design, all of a sudden, things started getting better. Well, cool. Here's my issue. What broke? And then you can walk back through, okay, here's all that's going on, and here are the things to get you back to, that issue. So like we see a lot of people with gallstones. And the biggest thing to remember about gallstones is that there's no such thing as gallstones. They're liver stones that are in the gallbladder. And it's important we recognize that distinction, because the gallbladder is a bag. It just holds stuff. It's like if you stuck your hand in your pocket and there was jelly in your pocket, you'd be like, who put jelly in my pocket? Like, you're not going to be like, well, my pocket made the jelly. That's not what happens. If it's a pocket, if you don't put it in there, it doesn't get there. So we're like, where are these gallstones coming from? They're congealed bile salts, which are made in the liver. You lose B6, and all of a sudden they turn into rubber cement. So if we think, oh, it's a gallbladder problem, you're missing the boat. It's a liver problem. And if the liver has congealed bile in it, it can't emulsify fats well. You're going to wake up between 2 and 4 in the morning when the liver tries to detoxify. You're going to have all sorts of issues with anger and sleep and stuff like that. So that's the thing. So when someone tells me they've had gallbladder issues, the first thing I'm thinking is you either have a parasitic infection or you have massive stress, but you cannot methylate B vitamins very well, specifically B6. And so I need to figure out how to get B6 into your body. If you have a parasitic infection, we have to kill the parasites first, then give you B6 while we're killing the yeast to restore the probiotics, so your probiotics can actually make your B6 for you. So that's kind of how the pathway goes. And people always are like, man, I feel so much better. My skin's better. I'm losing weight. I'm feeling great. Yeah, it's because we cleaned up the system that actually makes your body function.
Yeah. Minor detail.
Small thing. Yes.
Yeah. Which is kind of funny, because it is a relatively small thing.
Yes.
But it has a huge impact.
Oh, absolutely. giant impact. So it's kind of like, vitamin D3. People are like, well, if you take D3, it helps with energy. No, it doesn't. What it does, D3 is actually a hormone. What it does is it allows the body to absorb nutrients from the gut, and then it directs those nutrients where it needs to go. Well, if you have high enough D3, and it can actually help get your body to produce more CoQ10, or it makes your heart beat better, or helps your body create more white blood cells to kill infection. Well, of course, now you're going to feel better because you have the building blocks and you have the tools that your body needs. So,
Right.
that's the other piece. So there's all these little pieces of why do we have this and what does it do?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. Now that I know what its job is, do we need more or less of it? Like they always try to give women estrogen. And my question is always like, are you trying to have a baby? And if you're like, no, then you probably don't need estrogen as much as you need something else. So hot flashes, night sweats, vaginal dryness, joint pain, headaches from an estrogen issue. Most of these women, if you give them testosterone, the testosterone converts into estrogen at the level they need it. So their bone density gets better, their mental function gets better, and all their estrogen issues are solved. So it's why are we giving these things and what is our goal? And that helps us kind of figure out where we need to go with the pathway.
Yeah. Yeah. And then talking about women and hormones, menopause.
So menopause is, see, it's always funny because I talk to women, I'm not looking forward to menopause. And I was like,
oh my God,
when I
couldn't
turned
wait.
13 as a woman, I would be looking forward to menopause because I don't
Thank
want this thing
you.
to keep going. So but
I was.
maybe I'm a weird guy. I don't know. I like the fact that I don't have cycles. But so menopause is one of the big things we see, like I said, hot flashes, night sweats, vaginal dryness, joint pain, headaches. Most of the time at that point, your body's not making any hormones, especially testosterone. So we're gonna start worrying about muscle density, heart, brain, bone density.
Okay.
So that's when we start giving the women testosterone, and then it will convert over. If they're like, hey, 90% of my problem's gone, but I'm not as good as I should be, that's when we can start talking about using things like Progestins Plus or like other natural progesterone. And that progesterone will then convert over into estrogen. I'm very, very hesitant to ever give a woman estrogen because that's a really good way to give them cancer. So if you do any research on estrogen hormone therapy replacement and cancer, you're going to see article after article after article about estrogen dominance and estrogen causing cancer. So I'm very, very reluctant to recommend estrogen to women unless they're trying to get pregnant. So that would be a big piece there. But it's the same thing. There's a lot of men who need their hormone replacement done as well. So testosterone is the easy one for them as well. Every once in a while, I have to go back and balance some things. So like, for instance, women, when we back on the hormones and nutrition thing, a lot of women who have PCOS or bad menstrual function and they get hormonal really easily, they're low on what's called myoanastazole. So the myoanastazole function helps with any PCOS or any cramping or any, any bad cycle type of stuff. So a lot of times we'll give women myoanastazole and they'll calm the cycles problems down quite a bit. So those the PMS, the menstrual cramps, we've had women who tell me they're like, I will lay naked on the bathroom floor just to get some type of relief. The cold helps.
The cold,
the myoanastazole, and they come back and they're like, I mean, I can feel it. Like I know what's happening, but it's maybe a 1 or a 2 where it used to be a 10. But that's just nutrition that kind of going in and balancing the chemistry, not the hormones, but the actual chemistry. So, if you're at your wit's end, myoanastazole is a pretty solid play for a lot of women.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I'm way past any of that. I don't get the hot flashes or any of the other stuff. I get hot, but not from
random hormones.
No, it's not from random hormones. It's usually from drinking a cup of tea or, there's certain food kind of things that will
that spike you up.
Yeah. But the other, I'm just, otherwise I've got some of the other, dry skin and all that kind of stuff, but I kind of figured
so that goes dry skin. Dry skin and like people who like, I have dry skin, and then they tell me that they're having some type of constipation type of thing. That's gonna be an adrenal function. So lots of water, high grade salt, Celtic salt, pink sea salt, that type of thing feeds the adrenals. The adrenals are responsible for bowel control, fluid levels in the bowel. So it helps there, but it also helps hydrate the whole body. So if you're getting like psoriasis and eczema type of things, and they're like, put cortisone cream on that. Your body creates cortisone called cortisol if it has enough food to the adrenals. So sometimes we have to fix the gut first, but feeding the adrenals really helps produce cortisol to solve these skin issues.
Yeah, interesting. Well, yes, all of those things. Check all those off. Got all those things.
Well, very good.
But I've also had all those things for like 45 years or 50 years.
Oh, I see people every day who've had problems for 20, 30 years because no one, like the problem's going to be there until you fix it.
Yeah.
So the longer you've had it, the longer you just need to work on fixing it.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because essentially what you're telling me too is that it has nothing to do with the hormones and the menopause and all that kind of stuff. Because like I said, all those things you listed, I've had for, off and on since I can
Oh yeah.
remember. So
Yeah, we see adrenal problems with a giant swath of people. So and we'll see, brain stimulation issues. So back to, with a lot of people that's
yeah.
derived from gut function. It's like ADD, ADHD. People think that you can't pay attention. That's actually the exact opposite. What's happening is you're paying attention to everything. And so that's why you can't focus, which is also because the reason is because the reticular formation in the brain is falling asleep. And so your brain's trying to do anything it can to give it stimulation to keep it awake, which is why if you take a very strong, like a amphetamine or a very strong stimulant, like Ritalin or Adderall, something like that, that's why it calms you down and allows you to focus, because it wakes up the reticular formation in the brain.
Wow.
People have always asked me, like, Ritalin's such an amazingly powerful stimulant. How does it calm me down? That's how it wakes up the brain and allows the brain to focus.
Wow, never knew that. That's fascinating. It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. But you have to know what's
if you have to know the chain, how it got there.
Yeah. Whoa, okay. Interesting. My God, how many days do you have that I can just have you talk? Maybe I have you on again. That would be wonderful.
That's why I've made so many videos. But yeah, we can definitely do that.
Yeah. No, I would love that. Especially we'll instead of kind of hitting generally, the one or two over here and over there, it would be great to talk, a little more in depth on some particular subjects. That would be great.
Oh yeah, if you guys have specific subjects you want to go into, we can get really deep and have a lot of fun.
No, guys, just me.
Oh, well, I mean, you and your listeners.
All by myself. My listeners. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can take a poll.
Okay. They don't even leave comments. I mean, please. It's just, but it's as an aside, everything I've read, people have said, podcasters and stuff have said that people do not leave comments like they used to.
Well,
the numbers.
About 80% of all comments are negative. So, maybe you don't want too many comments anyway.
There you go. But I always thought that was kind of interesting because I don't know, my brother leaves a comment once in a while, but that's about it.
Well, what's funny is like the videos that I make for my website, my patients will come in and be like, I watched your video. It was amazing. I told 10 people, but they won't say a thing online. So that's a thing.
Yeah. So, which exactly. I totally understand because I don't do it either.
No, I don't do it either. No. Like I'll watch a psychology or a nutrition or a neurology video and go, that was awesome. Click out. So no, I guess we're all guilty of complaining about something we're guilty of.
What are they talking about in the next one?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, I think we probably should bring this to a close because we're otherwise we'll be off on some other subject. And I love having you as a guest. It's been absolutely wonderful. It's just,
absolutely. It was a great time. It was a good time.
I really appreciate it. And with that being said, I will give my usual that this is not medical advice, even though it sounded like it. And that I'm not a medical doctor. This person on the other side is, but that's not the role that he's here in specifically. So he's not giving.
Yeah, if we can give information, you can take your information to your specific doctor.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. And I will get your website and all that information from you. You can send it to me or however, and I will put it in the show notes so that if people do want to follow up and talk to you as a professional, they will be able to do that.
Absolutely. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah. So that would be great. And with that, I will say, which I usually do at the end of this, I will talk to everybody next week. Hello, everyone. This is your host, Susan. And I wanted to say that I really hope that you enjoyed this interview, along with all of my others, that have so much valuable information. And I know that I enjoy doing them, in case you hadn't figured that out. To thank you for being a Healthy Tips After 50 listener, I'm offering the gift of a powerful coaching experience with me to anyone in the HTA 50 family. If you are interested in a gifted session with me, send an email to susanrr@healthytipsafter50, and that's all spelled out except for the 50.com, and put the word gift in the subject. And that's it for today. I will talk to all of you next week.
This has been Healthy Tips After 50 with Susan Rosen. To stay on the cutting edge of the most effective health strategies, subscribe to this podcast and let us know what you thought of the show with a comment or like on iTunes. Visit healthytipsafter50.com for this episode's show notes, more resources, and free offers.